All right, here we go. Hey, Tan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm
Hey,
good. I'm good. How are you?
good, good. Thanks for coming on. I want to say Happy New Year. Chúc mừng năm mới, although it's not here yet, but thanks.
Năm mới.
So, when you hear the word Vietnam being Vietnamese, what does that mean to you? How do you identify with that?
Well, I feel
I
like
feel
I've
like I've
always
always
been. I've never really had like problem identifying with that because, you know, being since like being born here and being a Vietnamese, I actually don't think about it too often. And but not only until I came to the States, I feel like maybe I felt like I was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because of all the culture and everything.
How old were you?
And just Vietnamese is like sorry, but yeah,
No, it's
Vietnamese is
okay.
just like being myself, my family.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about the delay. Sometimes it's hard, especially when we're doing it from like the States to Vietnam. There's like a little bit longer delay, and I have to like kind of get into that rhythm of that delay.
Right,
Apologize if
right.
if it feels like I'm jumping ahead of you, but yeah, I'm sorry. I should have let you finish the answer.
It's all right.
How old were you when you came to the States?
I came when I was 15, so I
So I
finished ninth grade in middle school here, and then went to I went to high school.
and was that sort of like the plan all along? Like you knew you're when you were a kid you were gonna come?
Well, I actually had no idea, and I think it was my uncle. I used to have my dad's cousin, and he lives in the States, and he came back one day, and he was like having conversation with me in English just to see, and then he told my dad that he believes that I should come to the States when I'm this young so that I can adapt and get the ropes quicker.
Yeah.
And so they kind of made the decision kind of quick, and I had no clue until they told me, and we were trying to get the paperwork ready and everything. So it only took like one semester, and then I knew I was going, but
Wow.
I had no idea what it was going to be like. All I knew about the States is like from films and movies, things like that. News.
So from the early days of your childhood, you didn't have like this preparation, like this mental preparation that, hey, one day when I turn 15, I'm going to live somewhere else and be a part of, away from my family for a while.
Yeah, I had no clue, and actually at the time, I was 15, so I was kind of more. I think I was more excited than nervous because I didn't know what was ahead of me, and the idea of like living away from my parents sounds kind of cool. Like as like a teenager, at the time I felt like I was kind of stupid. Like I was getting to that phase when I'm like talking back to my parents a lot and like have new ideas and things like that. So I was really excited, and one thing is like I love a lot of a lot of things about the American culture. Well, from what I knew, and so I was just like excited, and I thought I was ready. I thought I was pretty ready.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Like you thought you were ready? Like you thought you were ready for being there and like getting assimilated to the culture? That kind of ready? Or you thought you were ready, like I'm a man now at 15 and I can take on the world ready?
Um, it was more about like because I actually really enjoyed English, like as a like when I was in school. Like I wasn't really good at math or anything like that, and I was only good at like two things that were like art and English, and I really enjoyed it. I study a lot, and I thought, I come prepared. I would be,
Got it.
um, it won't take me that long to adapt. But actually, I was quite wrong.
Mhm, all right.
But that comes later.
So your parents did send you to a place that you could learn English before they made that decision, right? So you were studying English in school.
Yeah, but in school it wasn't as good. So and I showed when I was little, I showed like no interest in school and whatsoever, like in like no subjects that I was never like, like the good student. So they uh they actually were surprised to see me happy to take on that English course, and when they were threatened to like, not letting me continue, I was like, I was actually begging them to let
Wow,
me continue because
wait,
they were actually gonna switch me from this program to a better program, but they didn't tell me that. They just told me that, oh, I need to stop, and I was like, oh, please, like actually, like let me continue to do that. So
really?
yeah.
And then they go, no, 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 no. We didn't mean it like that. We actually meant like we're just going to switch programs.
Yeah, I went to British Council, British. So yeah, that's
That's
where I
where I
learned
learned.
most of the basic stuff. I used to have a tutor, and she was Vietnamese, and she taught me. I didn't know anything. I knew vocabularies,
Vocabularies,
but
but
I didn't know anything until I was seventh grade. Like I can't make like a simple sentence. And I used to have this tutor, and she would
she
like
would like.
encourage me to speak English to her. But I have this weird like feeling about speaking English to a Vietnamese person.
Yeah.
So I would never say anything back. Like she would say things in English and like ask me to respond, and I would just respond in Vietnamese. And I kept doing that for like a whole year. And she was like, "Well, your kid, he can actually learn, but he doesn't feel like speaking to me." And so that's why they changed the program for me.
Got it. Got it. God, that's so weird. It's so interesting psychologically, though, right? Because I think some
I,
of us can say the same thing when we're speaking to our parents. Like when I have to speak to my mom or dad in English, it's so right, so awkward.
really? You felt
Yeah,
that?
I
Because
was
I would think that you would be more natural in English, like talking to your parents,
right.
and Vietnamese
No,
would
I
be a language that you only speak at
I
home.
go through the same thing. It's weird that we're even having this conversation because yeah, I don't know what that is. They only spoke Vietnamese growing up. I was born in the States. I'm 45 and I was born in the States. And I've attributed to my Vietnamese because, we speak it consistently. I've done business with my mom and dad my whole life. And so I've had to speak Vietnamese with them. But whenever we have like khách, or clients that come into, our work, and those guys are speaking in English, and then my parents have to speak in English, and then I have to talk to my parents in English. It's like the worst. It's so uncomfortable to speak to them in English, knowing that they and I speak Vietnamese. I think that's sort of like what I can relate to that.
Yeah, yeah. So I think yeah, that's how it feels. Feels kind of awkward at times.
Yeah, yeah. Did you once you got to the other program, was it somebody who was not Vietnamese?
Yeah, there were a lot of foreign teachers, and I think one of the my teacher, his name was Duncan, I think, and he was from England.
Yeah,
And
so probably a lot easier.
they basically just teach you like a lot. Like they taught me about the Friends, the show.
Yeah.
So like you learn things from movies, and then they do a lot of trivia questions and games and stuff like that. And I was actually quite good at that. I was never really good at anything in school, so like it really took interest in
You
that.
you probably have a killer memory.
Um,
Um,
Not so much right now. I think I had vivid memories when I was a kid. You know, I would have like flashes of really vivid memories from even back in kindergarten. But then now, 27, sometimes I don't know where my keys are and all those things, you know.
Wait till you get to my age.
Does it get worse?
Oh my god, you have no idea. You have no idea. And I'd imagine another 20 more years, it's probably, but I think, it just comes with it. And there's a different sort of beauty that comes with getting older too. You lose some of the unique things about being young, but then you gain some other fascinating attributes about your personality that uncovers itself as as the years go on. So I'm looking forward to being 70 and 80 and figuring out what the natural things that are in store for me. Um, so you get on a plane, you fly out to the U.S. to be with your uncle's family. Where did you go?
So I flew from, I think from Hanoi. Actually, it was a tough memory because the first day that I fly, I was supposed to fly away at 12 at night, and so my whole family came. My grandparents, my uncles, and I remember my cousins. They
Oh,
were
they were
saying
saying good.
goodbye, and then I went to the airport, and then the flight got delayed, but they didn't tell you how long they were going to delay it for. So we just kept waiting like an hour by the hour, and then they keep on sending notifications. And so it took me 6 hours
And
at
the
the
family
airport.
did the family stay for 6 hours?
No, they didn't. They went home because they thought I was going to be on the
Yeah.
plane. But I ended up staying at the airport for 6 hours. And luckily for
Luckily for
me, I
me,
didn't have to travel by myself because I have another, like
like
my aunt, like another cousin of my dad was
yeah.
like going on onto that trip with me, and so she was with me the whole time. Uh, I got like flight sickness because I never flew that long before. The longest I flight was to Thailand when I was in fifth grade, so it was like an hour. But then that flight took me like 25 hours, and I went to Huntington, West
West
Virginia.
Damn,
So it
25
was a
hours.
whole different experience.
Wow. And why Huntington, Virginia? It's because that's where your dad's cousin was?
Yeah, that's where my uncle and his family lives, and it was a small town. It was not what I expected when I came and I saw everything from the airport. And right after that, like right after I landed, I went and traveled to New York and Boston. I took on like a little trip because my dad wanted me to see more of the states. It's like um I think what he told me was like, oh, this is not what it's like around. You got to see like other cities as well. So I went and took on that trip. I think Boston, DC, New York, and then came back to Huntington and start school
Who did you go
because
with?
I think I came in late July. Huh?
Who did you go with?
Was that?
That trip,
That trip I went with my aunt, the one that I flew with. So she also has like business over there. So um, I think I was lucky to have her around because I was only 15, so it would be hard for me to do all that by myself.
yeah. And what was your initial thoughts when you got to New York and DC and all that?
Oh, when I first came to New York, like I remember being in Times Square, and it looks exactly like the movies. Like all the films that I've seen. about a guy who just came to Times Square and like looking up like this. Like I was exactly the same,
Same.
and I felt like everybody was moving so fast. You know, they were walking, but it was like they were running. And then I was looking up, and then I bumped into someone. I turned around, I tried to apologize, and I bumped into someone else when I was doing that. You know, the guy was already left. You know, the guy already left, and so I think it was one of my most memorable uh, moments.
Man, there's there's probably so many scenes like that that are written in movies about that, what you just described. You know, you bump into somebody, you turn around, and then they're gone, and you bump into another person. That's like it's a typical thing in that busy part of New York, right? It's just out of
Right.
control. But you know, Saigon's like that though too. Saigon, in many ways, is very similar to New York in its energy, right?
Um, I kept thinking of Saigon like the way I think in my inside my head is that Saigon is more like LA, and Hanoi is more like New York.
Oh,
So
really?
just that's just my
My
thought on is uh it's only because you know, like in LA's they do films, and you know they have Hollywood and all that stuff. And
and
then
then
in New York, I think they focus more on like paintings, literature, and Broadway. So I feel like in just my thought, you know.
I I agree. I agree. I think I was more focused on the energy of the traffic and you know
Uh,
the hustling of the energy. But you're right, and I want to get into that right now.
no, and the liveliness of the city, then yeah, definitely, it
Yeah,
feels a lot more faster paced
yeah.
than Hanoi, and
Let,
yeah.
let's talk about that comparison. Hanoi and New York and Saigon and LA. I think it's a very accurate comparison. The, the cradle of Vanhua or the cradle of culture when we think of like the old days of like the actors that sort of like the benchmark of sort of like Hanoi, right? That sound, the old Hanoian language.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so what?
yeah, it's it's from Hanoi, and it's just sort of like the gold standard. You know, when my mom talks about people from Hanoi, you know, she's she was from the north, but left when she was, you know, 4 years old. But she retains that sort of that nostalgia of anybody who speaks in that that age. She used to always on how beautiful it is, and it's kind of bled into me too. You know, why do you think it started there? How? Why is Hanoi sort of like the start of? Why is it like the New York of the you know of Vietnam?
Well, I think um, because people in Hanoi, I think part of the reason, like I always thought of this. Part of the reason is that they have the winter, and in Saigon they don't have you know, four seasons, right? Like so in Hanoi, you know, when it gets cold, I feel like people slow down a bit, and they try to. It's kind of really hard to explain, but I always felt that they like it slow. You know, they kind of enjoy the peacefulness and like the uh, kiểu như thanh thanh tao rồi nhẹ nhàng.
Mhm.
I don't know how to
No,
explain it right,
It's
but
perfect. It's perfect explanation. It makes sense. Well, if you think about it, right, in the world, all the colder climate places sort of have what you just explained. Tang Tao, it has sort of like this clarity, right? And you're indoors more because it's cold outside. And here's another freaky thought. I think if you kind of graph the world and you put cold climates versus warm climates, I think you'll find that colder climates in the world go to war much more often than the warmer, hotter climates. So the people that come from
I think so.
cold, I mean, I didn't make this up. I've heard it so many times in my life. It's just, yeah, if you think about it, like you got time to just like plot on how to kill your enemy, and you think about how to take over another country when it's like cold,
By the
right?
fireplace.
Yeah. But when it's like warm, you're like fishing in the lake, in the stream, and then you just go out to the backyard and pick some plantains and bananas, and you're just like chilling. You don't have to really worry about survival.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons for me why I like Saigon a lot too, is that I would enjoy the cold weather, if it's like 1 or 2 weeks. But once it's like, 2 or 3 months, then I've always enjoyed the sun more because I feel like it helps me to be in a better mood,
Yeah,
like when I'm in Saigon and it's hot and I see the sun all the time, I'm just more happy.
yeah.
Um, like, because they have that winter blues,
Yeah.
whatever they
It's
call,
it's a real thing,
and I
yeah.
feel like it applies to me
Yeah. It's
whenever I'm in cold weather for a long time. It takes a toll on my mind, I think.
yeah, there's an actual term for it. I think it's called SAD. Like it's oddly it's spelled sad, but it's like seasonal affect disorder or something, or I don't know what the D stands for, but it's basically if you don't get enough of that vitamin D production from the sun, you kind of like sort of like depressed state. And but maybe that depressed state, like London and Seattle, it's always
I
cloudy.
was gonna say London because I have few friends from London and they say the same thing because they always mention that it's always cloudy and it rains a lot. And so I watch a lot of soccer too, and I noticed that a lot of the players that are really good from South America or Spain, like where it's sunny, they play really well. And then some of them come to England and they were never really the same players that
Mm.
they were. And I think one of the reason is the weather and the culture, because we think of soccer players as like robots that play football, but
Yeah.
play soccer, but they actually are also humans, and I think it affects them as well.
These soccer players come to England and they become writers and shit.
And they do poetry, drink tea.
Yeah. Um, you know, I talked to my circle of friends about this whole London thing. A lot of them love London, one of their favorite cities. But other than being the cradle of the English speaking world, obviously it all originated from there. But there's a lot of bands, rock bands, and neo soul singers, and all these people that are British that that take over that writing space and music space. And okay, it's English, and the language comes from there. But I think on top of all that, the amount of production that comes from a little island has a lot to do with its cloudy, season.
Have you ever been to London
Yes,
before?
yes, yes.
I've never been. I've actually never been to England, and it's my goal. But with the situation right now, I think it's going to take me a few more years
Yeah, yeah.
to do it.
It's I think it's very much like Hanoi, the mentality, because I think once you have so much layers of culture built on top of culture, it's hundreds, thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but it's hundreds of years of people. It's like, okay, it's like computer code, right? Like in the beginning it was like very like ones and zeros, and then somebody built a language over that. It was really basic. I mean, there was a programming language called basic, and then you build on top of that, and then pretty soon so many shortcuts and contextual sort of ideas are built into the subsequent languages, and then it becomes like smooth. But then it's like it becomes so complex. But at the top layer, there's so much built-in meaning that drives all the way down. So it's like that with I think the English culture and the culture from Hanoi, you know. But in Saigon, it's like such. It really is like LA because LA and Saigon is like it's such a Mai, you know. The climate's so Mai, and people are just sort of like a little bit more free to kind of not really worry about the like you do in the north. Where, you know, in the north everything's so
Right.
and the
And then
culture.
sometimes they get kind of nosy, like you know, like I've had experiences when I used to live in this building, and then everything you do, people around you seem to know about, you know, better than you at times. And they would know like, oh, what time you came home, and oh, he has a girlfriend that he you know, she comes here and then at like 11, whatever, you know. People notice that kind of stuff in I think in Hanoi much more so than Saigon. In Saigon, you can just I don't even know my neighbors. Like
Yeah.
I've never seen them, like barely.
I wish I would have spent more time in Hanoi. You know, I go back to Vietnam well before COVID, maybe 3 times a year, sometimes 4 times a year, and I've only been to Hanoi twice. So I've been to Vietnam like a gazillion times, but Hanoi, you know, once with my parents in the early 2000, like it was in 2000, and then one more time, I mean, it was 7 years ago, just about for 2 3 days. I wish that I could spend a lot more time. It seems like such a romantic city.
And they also have amazing food. I've been in Saigon for 4 years, and I like a lot of things here. But one of the things that I still think that Hanoi is better. It's the food. They have really amazing food, and I think it's just my taste, you know. But then maybe because I was born there and I was raised there for 15, 17 years. But yeah, the only thing that I really, really miss is the amazing food that we have in Hanoi.
You know, I think if I really do want to talk about sort of like the uncomfortable difference between being from the north and the south, because my dad's from the south, my mom's from the north, so I feel like I can talk about that because you know I'm 50-50, right? I'm
Yeah.
in both the cultures, so I don't want to like slam any cultures, but I do want to get because you can articulate this in English, and I think we're given a little bit of leeway to
Yeah.
really talk about it and not get slammed. You know, let's not put any culture down. But I do want to talk about the difference between the two because when you're in the South, when you're in Saigon, and you speak with a Hanoian accent, do you get any sort of um, kind of prejudice or distance with the South?
Actually, surprisingly, I think sometimes I do. Um, Even working sometimes. Like I used to work in films, and you know, that one day I was just walking and I overheard people talking about some people from the north that they happen to know in film school or whatever.
Yeah,
And I think they have this kind of fix, because I feel like, you know, I'm from Hanoi, right? But I came in here and you know, I also tried to adapt. And I don't know if it's I think part of the reason is also because I was from the States. So now coming back to Saigon, it feels amazing because sometimes it feels like, you know, um, you're in a foreign country, but it's still Vietnam. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it has that kind of quality. Um, Even what we discussed earlier about, you know, how people from the north sometimes are. Um, and so I was on this film set, and I heard not very nice things. Some guy were talking about like how people from the north, the filmmakers, like they don't make films, they just talk about it, and they basically making fun of the accent too, you know, like yeah,
But
and things like that.
they
And
weren't attacking you or anything, right?
oh, they weren't, but They were saying something like, "Oh, they knew that I was there." So he knew that I was there. So when I sat down, he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry if I offended you, but that's just like characteristic of people from the north." And I was like, "Okay," because I couldn't say anything because I was like the only northern guy in the whole thing. There were like 10 other people there.
But Vietnamese people are
Oh,
very north and south. They're very blunt. So hey, you look like you
yeah,
gained a little weight. You're like 10 pounds over. They'll just call it out. They don't give a fuck
right.
sometimes. Yeah. So that comes with just humans in Vietnam, or it's just Vietnamese people even in America. They just call you out or very blunt about things, which I appreciate sometimes. But um,
And you know what? There's another funny thing too is that I've noticed that like even in film roles, sometimes they would pick a northern accent actor to
to
play
play the bad guy.
um like yeah, like the cunning, like the con man. I played a con man before, and I'm from the north, so
It's
I kind of see where they're coming from. I see where they're coming from. To be honest, like there are a lot of people they mistaken them for being like Hanoian, but they're actually not that. Um, because people from Hanoi, not many of them are actually from Hanoi.
mm,
There are a lot of people from different parts in the north that comes in, and I think it just depends on the person. But sometimes they get like this bad image from the south of being like Hanoian, but they're actually not Hanoian.
can you tell when you run into people if they're from like some people are
Um,
from New York, but they're really from like some other place, like an hour away from.
well, I can tell based on the accent mostly because like there's some parts that from the north that you kind of know like, oh, they're not from the city, like they're not from Hanoi, maybe they're from like different cities, like the way they speak it's just a slightly bit different, but you can tell. But then I can't tell people from the south from
Yeah,
you know if
Gangta to
it
something
would be like more. Yeah, like it will be difficult for me to tell that apart. But for the northern accent, then I can pick out.
can you tell like Ben Yung has a lot of northern speaking people from the north in Ben Yung, and it's it's just sort of like that area. There's so many people. Can you distinguish if they're like from Benyung, who's been there for a long time, but they're from the north, and okay, you kind of like blended the southern language in, but you still speak with the northern. Can you kind of differentiate that?
Yeah, I can differentiate that, and it's easy for me to find out if if you're from the north and you're trying to do a southern accent, and the other way around too. If a southern guy from the south trying to speak a northern accent, I can, unless he's like really good, then I can like tell the difference.
Can you do it? Can you code switch and speak southern?
No, I mean I only do it like jokingly because I used to say this phrase, like oh muốn em nói giọng miền Nam nghe giống lồng tiếng TVB vậy. It's quite stupid, right? Yeah. I only know how to say that one phrase to just because they used to make fun of me of saying it like I thought I was doing it quite good,
Yeah.
and they were saying like, oh, it sounds like from the old like martial art movies, and they have the dub,
Yeah, yeah. Long tiếng, the phim trưởng, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's funny. It's super funny. So you get to the States and you do that big tour, then you settle into Huntington, Virginia, and you start your what first year as a freshman in high school?
um, I've done my ninth grade in Vietnam.
Okay.
So when I came, I started out as a sophomore. They recommended me to start as a freshman, but I said no. And then they also asked me for they asked me if I wanted like a new name, like an English name,
Yeah.
and I actually decided to keep my name, Thanh.
Holy
And
shit.
I thought about it for like a day. I couldn't come up with any name, like I couldn't think myself as like Chris or I was thinking about a few names, and then I just couldn't. I didn't think it was me, and so I actually decided to keep my name. Although it was kind of hard for them to spell it, sometimes because they kept spelling it like Tang Pham, like Tang instead of Thanh.
And they probably thought
And
"Sun." Did they ever put a "sun"? Because in Vietnamese, the "th" is a hard T, right? And in English, the
right,
"th" is a sort of a softer.
right. They usually just call me like the orange because that's easier for them to pronounce. The tang, the
Tang, got
orange powder.
and then you're like
So that's how they usually would just call me.
"There's no fucking G on the end of that H. There's no where do you
Right.
where do you get Tang from?" Yeah, it's crazy. But look, an amazing that's an amazing thing that you just brought up because my generation, when we got to the States, many of us were assigned American names or English names, and we kind of have to live with that mark, for better for worse, right? I'm not complaining. It is what it is in history, but you had the privilege basically to decide if I'm going to go in that direction. And if you think about it, right, this is a big distinction in your history because you were given the choice to not give a flying fuck about what the white community or an American would think about your name. Like, I'm gonna go into this new place. I'm gonna fucking keep my name. Yeah, think about it for a day. That's a lot of power that the
Yeah.
community that I grew up in, we were fucking shoved down. Our parents were even like shitting in their pants, going, "Oh, okay, I got to come up with the name for them, otherwise they're not going to be able to assimilate in their school." Guys like me, I was like born with the name. I was never even given a Vietnamese name in the beginning until my grandmother asked my mom from Vietnam. She's like, "Yo, what's the kid's name?" And then she had to come up with something. She told me I had to figure it out. But yeah, that speaks volumes of where the confidence of your generation, and I I marvel in it. I think it's amazing that you are given that sort of that agency to say like, "Yo, man, I'm gonna keep my name."
But actually, at the time,
That
I
deep.
didn't think too much of it, though. But I don't. I think I never really regret that decision, though. I think it was just hard for me to find names that 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 I think because the only names and the people I really know are from you know uh, films, and
Yeah.
I know a couple of like my dad's friends and like colleagues, and but they had like really different name, like different sounding names, and I just couldn't come up with any names,
Well,
and I thought that I would like for them to learn how to pronounce my name,
yeah.
and I don't mind if they made a mistake.
That's awesome. Like what I said. It's a fuck you. Like my name is Tan. You're gonna learn it. You know, amazing. And here I am. Growing up, I'm going. Well, my name is Kenneth, but it's not really. It's not really my culture. And feeling that baggage, that insecurity of having an American name. But I'm like, dude, I don't look like that name that I was given. Right? I don't look
You
like a
think so?
kid. Say again.
I mean, you were the first that I've met with that name, and I thought that it was, like an actual choice. Like
No.
it seems like it suits you
Oh,
because I have never met any Kenneth in my life, actually.
It was so when we got to the United States, there was a family, it was an American family that sponsored my mom and dad in, and my mom was like 8 months or whatever pregnant with me. So we landed a month later. They had me, and the family that brought us in, the sponsor family, the person, the head of the family was Kenneth Eugene Spangler. So my dad, in honor of him, he was a very good man. Named me Kenneth Eugene Nguyen, and so that was the name I was given. Which is I'm he was a great man. He was a very wonderful person. So I'm happy with that. That's but as you get into the history of colonialism and you know where you as Tan today, a younger man getting to America in a different circumstance, there becomes a totally different meaning from the name that you were given at birth to retain that identity. It's a huge choice that many of us, to this day, is a source of, you know, curiosity. It's a source of pain sometimes. It's a weird part of our identity. Okay, but what about your Huyme? Is it pronounced Huyme? Like, what is that? Where did that come from?
Oh, I get asked this a lot because like when they find out that my name is not Hui, because a lot of people just think it's like Hui me, right? Like it's like I'm Hui, but it's basically it's a channel that I made as a joke for one of my friend because he didn't like the nickname that I was giving him, like Hui Man, right? So I made that channel, and then when I started YouTube, everybody was already doing vlogs and stuff. There were like a couple people, and at the time, everybody who wanted to start YouTube, people would say like, "Oh, he's just trying to copy this guy. He's trying to copy this guy." And so I was like, "What? Well, I have this channel that I've made like before anybody else made their channel. This Huyme Productions, and it's actually a pretty cool name. I thought it would be like a really cool name because it's like short and people can remember it. But
Catchy.
then introduce myself as Tang on the videos. But then later on, people was just kind of catch on that name and they were saying like me, and I was like, okay, that sounds kind of almost catchy, Like I like the name, and I think it brings me a lot of luck too. So Vin Diesel is not actually Vin Diesel, or like you know. So later on, I found out, and because I never really thought that my YouTube channel was gonna be um, getting that kind of recognition that it did. So if I was given a second chance to change the name, I think I would still keep it.
Keep it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the idea of branding and logo, right? Like, sometimes you might have a killer, amazing, beautiful logo. Like we talk about this, like in my businesses, we go through branding exercises and all of that. And over the years, what I've realized is the branding emotional connection with the audience and the product maker eventually will happen if you do the right thing with the product. And whatever the logo looks like, it looks like shit or it looks really amazing. It all depends on like how you build that emotional connection with people. And over the years, it just becomes, either it's gonna like shine really bright or it's just gonna go away and fade away if you don't take care of the brand side. What do you think? And I know this is gonna be an awkward question, but what do you think was the reason your YouTube sort of vlog caught on? Because you said you didn't
Um,
expect it to become whatever it became. What do you think was the sort of the source of that?
uh, well, I've heard a lot of people say the source of it was because of my good looks. which which I never really believed, because I thought, I can be funny at times. I never really pay attention to my looks. Back when I was young, I had like braces and all those things, so I grew up thinking that I was quite ugly. I wrote this on my Facebook as well, and then because I was hitting puberty and like a lot of things changes, all that stuff, and I think like in all seriousness, there were other people that were doing really serious topics about the world. I mean, not the world, but like about Vietnam and the culture at the time. And they were attacking like all these different, controversials like dramas
Yeah.
and stuff. And mine was more like just more about daily life and like a whole different side, like a younger insight on social things at the time. And I think part of the reason for that success for all of us at the time was because we're so different,
Right.
but then we're also friends and we were in a group. So yeah.
When was the moment where it sort of like really caught on fire and just kind of blew up and exploded, and you're like, "Holy shit, there's something here."
um I was started making a few videos. I started from, I think, from vlog 7 or 10, like the 10th video. I got to like 10,000 subscribers, and a lot of my friends were like, "Hey, you're like famous now," and I'm like, "Well, I don't think so." 10,000, it's like a lot, but um, you can't say it's like famous yet, right? And then I hit vlog 12 and 13, and I think overnight, a lot of people like. I think there were a couple of really well-known like teenagers at the time, and they were all like posting, like reposting my
Oh
videos and
shit. Hmm.
tagging me and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was really surprised when I saw all that. And then I went outside one day for I walked through this festival thing. They were like selling stuff. It's kind of like a mini market
Hmm.
for students. And so I was walking by, and then this girl just came up to me and was like, "Can I have your autograph?" And I was in shock because, first of all, like people nowadays, like I don't think that they still ask for autographs because
Yeah.
they have cell phones, right?
Yeah.
Usually just take
Selfie.
pictures. And then I have like really, I have a really bad signature that I still have till this day. So I was like, okay. And then that was the first moment of like, okay, wow, like a lot of people watches my videos, and like I'm an idiot on there, like I gotta watch out. so like it started quite early, I was back. Okay, so I was in college for a year
Yeah.
right after high school, and then I was doing painting, and I was so focused into my school um, and my art. I was like focused. I ran a place so that I would come back next year to have my own studio and paint with my friends. And then our family kind of hit this financial problem at the time, and so it was a hard decision for my dad to tell me that, oh, we were hitting this bump. Like it's really hard to maintain the financial aspect of the school. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come back. No worries. I haven't had a Tate holiday for like 4 years. I don't mind like taking a year off. And so I went back to Vietnam, and I started YouTube. And just within that year,
Holy shit. So wait a
it
minute.
blew up.
So didn't have like a rope. It didn't. God, this is crazy. I didn't realize that. So you did 4 years in the States, and you're like, okay, I'm going on about my studies. And then your dad's like, all right, we got to get back. Can't afford it. And you get back, and you start this YouTube shit, and it took off.
Yes.
Man,
So like
the
I said, I'm in a lot of like I have a lot of luck.
yeah, the kind of
Uh,
crazy shit that happens in life, right? Because think about it. If you did not have that weird financial hardship with your dad, you'd be like probably, stayed in the States, and your life could have taken a whole different course,
right.
right? What were you studying in
Well,
college?
um, when I was finishing high school, I actually thought about film school because I've always wanted to edit videos, and I used to make videos with my friends. Like I make them act, and I would like film it and go and edit and show it to the class.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I really liked making videos. from like very young age, and I learned everything by myself, like Windows Movie Maker and all that stuff, basic edit stuff. And so after I finished high school, I wanted to go to film school, and I told my dad that I wanted to go to film school, but then he gave me this Asian dad like talk, about careers, and because he's a painter himself,
Like full
and
time,
he's a full time abstract painter,
and he doesn't do
and
anything else other than paint.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a full time artist, and he really believes that I have the skills and the natural talent to follow that path, and
Yeah.
he was encouraging me to do it because he felt like he could help me along the way, and he could like guide me into that career path, and I would have like no problem um surviving in that kind of career. He was saying like, oh, if you were going to just study film, then we don't know anybody, like I don't know anything about film, don't know anybody in the industry. It's hard to break into and do things like that. And so I was convinced. I was 15, 18, 17 before college. So I applied to this school in Cleveland Institute of Art
Yeah.
because at the time I think I should have went to somewhere, some further place, but then I wanted to stay with my girlfriend at the time, my ex-girlfriend, and I wanted to like somehow be able to still like take a bus back
Yeah.
to Huntington to like visit her and stuff. And they also give me a small scholarship. It's like I think it was like 40 grand. So it was quite a lot for me, but then
Yeah, that
the
ain't
tuition
small.
is still
40 grand,
yeah,
yeah,
but
small scholarship.
well, it's small. It's small if you compare it to the tuition.
Yeah.
Tuition is pretty high. So yeah, I went in for a year, and I've never been so focused in my life because
Mm.
I felt like it was the only thing that I was good at. I was never really good at anything else in middle school. In high school, actually, my grades got better because I was by myself and had to do everything by myself. Um, but yeah, like after 1 year that happened, came back to Vietnam, and then I started YouTube. And
The rest is history.
you want to know this other story?
Yeah, of
Because
course.
like after after that year, right? Like the YouTube thing, um, my dad wanted me to go back to school, but at this time, I think my brain is so fixed on like doing YouTube, and
Yeah.
I wanted to do film again. So I went back. I did 1 semester, and I told my dad that, you know, uh, I think I'm just wasting money here. I go to class, I do everything, but then I don't put my mind to it anymore. I want to do videos, I want to do films. Let me go back to Vietnam, and I'll do film. I'll
Yeah.
make a film, or I'll be in a film. And then somehow he actually believed me and let me do it. And so I came back for 2 years. I didn't do anything. I was doing like 2 videos, and I was doing like commercials to like support myself. And he was getting kind of angry. He was he was like this close to like force me to go back to school one more time. And then Angham, right? And Anderson messaged me on YouTube, and it went straight to my
What?
trash mail. And then I looked at it. It says like, "Hey, I'm Anderson. I'm the producer of this film Hollow, and my friend is Ham, and we wanted to do this film Bitcoin Heights." And the email was like 6 months ago, and it's in my trash box. So I
Oh,
was like,
shit.
I was like, is this a scam? Like, I don't even know this guy. Like, it could be like a big scam or something. But I still wrote him back. I was like, okay, I'm sorry I was late. I didn't know anything. Maybe in the future we can still work together. And then he emailed me back like right away. He was like, hey, we're still in Saigon. There's like 1 month before we shoot. We still haven't found the guy. And you want to
Damn.
fly him here and cast? And then I flew in, and that's how I met him. Anderson and Ingham.
That is an amazing story, man.
Yeah,
That
I
is an
felt like
amazing story. I had Anderson on like 4 episodes ago.
I've seen that episode actually. I was watching that episode the other night.
Oh wow. You just realize how smart the guy is, right? Fuck.
Yeah, he's like a living dictionary.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He's like the walking Wikipedia of film. But dude, that's a crazy story, man. I cannot believe it. I was gonna ask you that much later, like how did you get in the business? But that's like the most random shit, you know? Getting reached
Yeah,
out. I mean, 6 months go by. You could have never ever got on that train.
right. And somehow, like made it just on time. Uh, 1 month away. I came in and I've never even been to an audition. Like I didn't even know how I did. I went in and I met Ham for the first time. I talked to him, and um, I think he kind of liked me from the
Yeah.
start because like
Yeah.
I could talk to him like this, right? Like I was asking him about the films.
Yeah.
Like he was giving me after the audition, he actually gave me a couple films so that I could watch. So I was like, all right, this is it.
Wow.
Like I got this now. And then I came home, I watched everything that he sent me, and but he didn't say anything. Like he didn't write me, he didn't message me anything for like I think it was like 2 weeks. And I was like devastated. I was like, man, like maybe I blew it. And I decided to message him. I was like, hey man, like I'm new, I don't know anything, but if you give me a chance on this, I'll try my best. I'll work hard, just tell me what I need to do. And so I sent it to him and he didn't answer either. Like I waited.
Typical
It's
Ham,
like
man.
a week goes by and I was like, okay, well, it was worth a shot. Like, and then he actually messaged me. He was like, hey, didn't my assistant like tell you anything? I'm like, no. It's like, okay, Suboy is coming back to Saigon from the States, and we wanted to try you guys together. If you're gonna fly in, in the next couple days. So I booked a ticket. Flew in, uh, did the casting with Suboy, and then I think Ang JV. You know Ang JV, right? Uh, he told me, okay, we're gonna have lunch upstairs. We're gonna have a meeting and lunch upstairs. Like you're welcome to come and hang out. And so I just came upstairs and he brought out the contract. So he was like, okay, you signed this, and you were like ours. So I was like, okay, all right, I'll sign it. So that's pretty cool. Like it was totally random, and as I said, like the whole time up until this moment, I feel lucky a lot of the times
Yeah.
that I get the things that I get right now.
I was right before you, a few days ago, I interviewed Gu Jing for 4 hours, right?
Yu Ching as
The
the
actress. The actress.
she's younger than me, right? Like
No, no, she's
the
she's
young actress.
she's in her 80s. She's like the
Oh,
yeah,
that okay. Sorry, that I'm mistaking the
yeah,
two actresses. There's another Yu Ching, but she's like much younger.
right, right. No, no, she's in her 80s, and there was a lot of ground to cover. There was 4 hours, and in the 4 hours, you realize when you listen to it how much it's like it's almost like God or a divine sort of like energy that kind of like is putting things into because she had a hard life. I mean, very difficult, but for some reason there was these things that had happened to her, like with you, where it's just kind of like put in place, and you're just like that makes no sense, you know. But then it all works out. It really does work out in the end. And another thing that I'm learning as I'm interviewing a lot of people is a lot of times, like this hardship that you go through, like your dad saying, "Hey, I don't have enough money. Let's get you back." That opens up another door. And then at the time, we never realized it's such a cliche, right? We don't think about like other doors opening up, but clearly more doors open up even in a more profound way than we actually think it does. You know,
Because
I'm
even
going,
if I had to plan all this,
you
I
can't.
wouldn't be able to plan
Yeah,
such a good plan like that, right? I wouldn't, if I finish school and come back here, like I wouldn't know how to contact
strategize.
people. Like,
Yeah,
I just tell my dad I was gonna do a film. I basically lied to his face because I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I just told him I was gonna do a film. 2 years I did a film, right? And he wasn't even supportive in the beginning, but he is now. I think
turned
he's
around.
uh he's proud now.
But let me ask you, do you still paint?
Actually, I do. I actually lost touch for like I stopped painting for a few years when I came back and when I was doing films and getting back onto YouTube. I stopped painting for a long, long time, and I actually started again last year.
Hmm.
And so I think I've only painted like 15 paintings in the time of 1 year, and I'm painting a lot more often now. And I'm actually like since it's like COVID and stuff, you have a lot more time to uh, think about things and paint.
Yeah. What do you paint about?
Um, I usually just paint like the things that happened in my life. Like I would pick like a certain memory, like certain people, certain memory. I do sometimes I do portraits, and basically I haven't found a style for myself yet. I'm still in that phase of like finding my
Voice?
yeah, the voice. Um, but I paint. It's hard to describe what I paint, but it's other than like I actually have them there, but I don't know if I should like
I
show
would.
you some.
I was just gonna ask you. Can you show it to me? Can you hold it up?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll this. It's like this painting. I was painting this building. It's like a house, but it's like
Holy
backward.
shit! Tang. Damn. That is fucking cool, man.
Thanks.
Holy cow!
And
Ham Angham, he told me to really get into this with you, and I had no idea what he meant by that. You have another one?
there are a couple more small ones I can
Yeah.
show you. Uh, this is like a portrait of my nephew I painted a while back,
Wow.
and this is like my most recent painting. I painted a bear because I'm painting this for my. I'm starting a new series on YouTube
Okay.
again, and I'm painting this for that
Oh,
video.
wow. Oh my god. The water looks amazing.
Yeah, it took me. I think it took
Oh
me
my
4 days
god.
photo.
Dude,
This is like my latest
you don't fuck
painting.
around, man.
So it's easier to show it than describing
Yeah.
what I.
Now, do you feel like that break that you had from painting, actually helped you?
Um,
Or do you wish you
I
kept
think
going?
actually, honestly, I wish I kept going because I feel like I could have I could have you know be at this level maybe 2 to 3 years ago. You know, um, but then taking a break from painting, it it's kind of like a blessing because like you appreciate it so much more when you come back to it. and it helps you mentally. Because I think painting is a lot has a lot to do with mental as well. Like it's not just it's like you gotta be in the right mindset somehow. And I wouldn't have this all these ideas and way to express myself if I didn't have those experiences outside of painting.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps me to, like mature
Mature.
myself as an artist, kind
Yeah,
of.
it's part of finding your voice, right?
And
Yeah.
I still feel like I don't know a whole lot about painting because like even when I was in college, I was really bad at like knowing like the classical artists and like the famous one.
Mhm. And you had to take a art history class, in college?
I did. I wasn't good, but I mean, I never paid really much attention to the stuff that I didn't like. So I'm the kind of student that would be, um, I would say that I can be really focused and determined in the things that I like, and then if I if I don't like it from the start, then then I would be like a B minus student.
Yeah, yeah.
Whenever it comes to the subject that I'm not really interested in.
Yeah, I think that's, the key component to, anything that we do in life, right? You gotta have I hate the cliche of it, but you gotta have passion. You gotta really, like, really love what you do because even if there's no money attached to whatever you do, eventually you'll find a way to monetize or support yourself doing that. But it takes a lot of confidence and a lot of belief that whatever you're doing is going to be okay in the end.
Right.
Um,
But then one of the things about me when I was a painter is that I actually never thought that I would be a painter because I knew my dad. Like I've seen him work
yeah.
since I was a kid, and he's actually the story that we had earlier about the financial, like that was like back then. But he's in his early 50s now, and he's actually um, becoming like a major like household name when it comes to abstract painting.
Mm,
And he has come a long way, but then it took him like 20 like
years.
30 years. And he still, if you were to come to my house in Hanoi right now at this time, he would be in his studio painting. And he has that crazy determination and like work ethic that I don't see in myself yet when I paint. I like to paint, and I spend a lot of time into the paintings that I want to invest my time in. But I just never saw myself as a painter, even when I was in school. Like I was good at doing that, but I never thought of myself as a painter. But also, I think what contributed to that was because my dad keeps saying that I will be a painter.
Yeah.
And at first, I didn't want to do painting because I went to that school and I wanted to do animation. I wanted to do illustration and animation, but then I get to see what it was like to be in that career, and I just didn't like the work environment.
Yeah.
Um, they were in the cubicle and they draw a lot on the computer like all day in the room. And when I took, because I was determined to do anything but painting because I didn't want to do the same thing that he does.
Yeah.
But then when I took that painting class and drawing, I thought it was a lot of freedom. Like you take philosophy and then you talk and then you go out, you go to museums and you get to do things, you get to paint, and I actually enjoyed painting. I never thought that I would enjoy painting, but I did. And so that's why I took that path. And I had this weird relationship with painting. It's like on and off. And
Yeah.
you don't know yet.
I often discuss this very idea with parents on people who have kids on the show because I have kids that are right now 2 and 4, and I'm always wondering sort of what is the healthy dose of like the pressure. But I can't. I know from my own experience, I can't be pressured into doing anything. I have my own way of doing things, but I think your father had the reason why I think this is just me speculating. The reason why he's able to go so hard at the paint or painting is because maybe as he was growing up, it was very cold, and he probably didn't get the opportunity to be a full-time painter. And then now it's like he's at a point in his life where, oh my God, like the privilege of having all that time to practice that art. You're looking at it, and I'm looking at it, looking at our parents going, damn, man, you're always painting in the garage, you're always in the studio, and that's like hard work. But then we take a few steps back and we think about their childhood, and like he probably was like dying to paint and spent on his entire life, but it was so cold back in the day when he was growing up, and now he gets a chance. So that pressure was an external pressure from society saying you can't do this, you can't do it, because especially as a painter in Vietnam at the time, you're like, you're not going to make a living. And then so I'm torn all the time between uh looking at my children and going, um thinking about their lives being so sung sung, and they're not going to amount to shit, right? But then I look at you and I'm like, no, 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 no. Everybody has their direction, because you're turning into a beautiful, your life's path is turning into a very beautiful thing, despite this sort of like wonderful, because your dad probably thinks, the life of a painter, and you have a lot of talent that he can see in you, but your life is shifting because of, that's not your path.
Right. And it's also because my dad, like I know him, like I don't know if you experienced this when you were younger, but like in Vietnam, it's like a cultural thing. I think it's like whenever the cousins and like the relatives get around, they would always like compare the kids, like,
Yeah.
oh, like he's like that much taller. You want to like stand there and see who's taller and all that stuff. And he would always say like, so I'm like 5'8", right? But he would always say like, oh, my kid is like tiny. It's like 5'10", and I always have to like correct him because like I know that he knows that I'm not 5'10". And then whenever he talks about me and my skills, I know that I can draw and I can paint. But then just because of the way he is, sometimes when he talks about me, kind of makes me think that, oh, what if he's just saying that? But then
Interesting.
I think sometimes I thought that, but then I knew that he wasn't lying because there's this one time my sister also draws, and her husband, like they all went to art school and stuff. And then one time they had to do homework, and they
And they
had a
had a
lot
lot.
of where they had to draw and paint. So I decided to come in and help them with one of the drawings. And I just like drew this painting picture, and I put it in the stacks. And then actually my dad was looking through all that, and he stopped at that picture, and he was like, "Did you do this?" He asked my sister. So he said it was good, and so he didn't know it was mine. So I was like, okay,
Oh
maybe
shit.
okay.
A lot of
After that, I was like, okay, maybe he really judges it the way it looks, because he's really he's kind of a perfectionist too.
dude,
He's a lot different than I am. Yeah.
that's a fascinating story, man. You know, because we think in our minds as parents sometimes, oh, give the kids some confidence, right? Give them some good shit, some good sweet words and honey words to build their confidence. But you just brought up a really interesting point. You're like, all that shit made me doubt if I'm really good. And then you needed like sort of like this organic blind test that your father, you had this, this drawing that it was in the stack, and proved to you like, dude, he didn't know my work from my sister's work, or he really picked that one out and said, this one's quality. Man, thank you for sharing that because that's going to help me in my life raising my children. Um, think of yeah, it's fascinating. You don't think about
I didn't mean to do it. Dude. Like I didn't mean to do it. It's just that it all happened by accident. Like I was just happening to be there when he was looking through the pictures, and so because I didn't tell him, so that's why I thought that it was like okay, maybe I knew that he really judges it um, by the way it looks, and
yeah.
not because it's mine.
Can I talk to you about the economics of the art world in Vietnam? Do you know much sort of about it? Like the art.
Um, I can only tell you from my dad's perspective, and I think it changes a lot. Like I think a lot of people would be amazed at like how much it changed. Because even for for me, like seeing him now and like he's I would say that he uh not even his peak yet, but he's quite successful now as an artist, and he also travel a lot, even when he was younger, to Europe and have exhibitions and all that stuff. And I feel like economics, I don't know so much about the art war in Vietnam, besides like his friends, because my family, my dad and my uncle also are painted.
How I God, I'm so ignorant when it comes to this stuff. Even in the US, I'm very ignorant at it. Are there is there an art scene that has like art dealers and that they can go and be agents to sell paintings and works that help the artists? How does that sort of like that infrastructure work in Vietnam?
Um, of course, they have galleries, and from what I know, because
Yeah.
I'm not too deep into it, but they also have like galleries and agents, and sometimes there are private collectors that would come to the studio and pick out the paintings. And before, I think about 5 to 10 years ago, the majority of the customers were foreigners. But now there are a lot of Vietnamese collectors,
Mm,
and they're willing to like to pay for paintings, and
yeah.
then they big bucks. And it's a good thing for all artists. And there are a lot of artists that comes in like every year, a lot of them. Also, partly the reason why I don't think that I'll make it in the art world, even till this day. Like I've never sold a painting before. Like I never try and sell my paintings, and I have yet to like sell one of my paintings.
But
So
that's because you didn't I mean, have you put anything on the market? Have you called up an agent and said or a gallery and said, "Hey, I'm ready to put together a collection or anything like that?" I mean, I imagine if you step off and did that, that something would move, right?
um, I would hope so, but I don't know. I've never tried, and even my dad was encouraging me to post things online because he runs a page now for collectors and even artists to you know check out the paintings and stuff. But he encouraged me to post on it, but I
Yeah.
haven't posted anything.
It's crazy. I was gonna say to you after the call, after this being with you, I was gonna when I hit stop record, I was gonna be like, "Yo, can I buy that house one, that upside down house?" And and I'm like, if you've never sold anything, put a price on it. Uh, I'm Bao, Bao Nguyen. He's going back to Vietnam like in April or something. I would love for you to wrap it up and I'll pay. I want to be the first customer. I'm telling you right now,
Nice.
I'll be the first
Okay.
customer. I'm not a rich man, but I'll pay whatever symbolic
Crazy.
the thing you want. I would love to have that, and I would love to be the first guy to purchase that that painting if you're willing to part with it. I'm being dead serious
Oh
now.
man, that's crazy.
That's serious right
Crazy.
now. Yeah, yeah. I want to be the guy who says this is the first one that was sold, and I'm calling it out right now. So, or hold on to it. I'm claiming it if you're willing to let it go, of course. And I'll pay you for it.
It's
And then
actually in a frame, and it's ready to be gone somewhere, but I'm just still keeping it here.
yeah, I'm letting you know
I-
right now. Like you call a price out, whatever. Like I'll tell you if I can't
Nice.
afford it, but if the price is good enough,
And
I'll.
I think that this is like the craziest thing because you mentioned it is like as an artist, like you want your paintings to sell for a lot of money, but then I don't know how to put a price on it.
Yeah,
And it's not like you can just put out a price and like a lot of people want to buy it. Because I think you got to work your way up just like anything else.
absolutely.
But then, yeah, like it's crazy because like even when I was in school, they taught me a lot about the market side of the paintings. Like my professor would told me that um, if you think you're gonna make it as
As
as a painter just by painting, then you're not gonna be a painter.
yeah,
Then you have to build that skills, like the market skill, like marketing skills, along with your painting skills. So you got to come to galleries and like actually introduce yourself to the collectors, and show your paintings and do all that side thing.
dude. You know
Um,
what? You have a massive advantage over any of these painters, and let me tell you what it is. Do you have the following as a whoever your position is right now in the entertainment world, but you also have the know-how to get that word out. You speak the language of the modern language of technology to get it. So you're not going to have I mean, I'm honestly have a problem. And there's like wall space right here that I'm going to shift this probably a little bit more, and I would love to put it right here.
oh, okay.
Right? Yeah, I'm calling it out right now. Like this poster right here is Nguyen's Be Water, the
Yeah,
Beasley
be
documentary.
water.
Yeah, and so I would love to have something right here.
Nice.
That would be really cool. I thought about that when you showed it to me. I'm like, this is
Actually, Ham told me that he wanted me to do a portrait of him and Jane,
Mhm.
and I asked him to send me the photo, but I don't know if I think that because he wanted to have it to her by the anniversary,
um,
and I asked him if he would send me the photo, but I think he was busy on set that day, and he never sent me anything, and I kind of forgot about it. And now that you mentioned like everything with the painting, it actually came to my mind just now that yeah, I should have mentioned him. Like I should have messaged him because I actually asked him twice, but you know how he doesn't
yeah,
reply and stuff
yeah,
sometimes.
he's definitely hard to reach sometimes. Um, I am dead serious about that house painting, so we can talk about it after. But I'm dead serious. I love it. Yeah. It just felt like, oh my god, I can't believe like that that exists in the world. Something like that. I
In a time when I felt like there were a lot of things in my mind that wasn't at the right place.
yeah,
So it's basically a house in the air, but flipped. And sometimes, um, a lot of people can have a lot of different meanings into the painting, but to me, the mindset was just like, I need to get something out of my system when I was feeling all these feelings that I can't deal with, and I wanted to paint something because painting actually lets out. Because if you have certain kind of emotions, and sometimes painting can help you um, express it, and like it's kind of like meditate at times.
how long does it take you typically to finish something like that?
Um, I think for this painting, took me 3 days.
Yeah.
Most only because I wanted to wait for the paint to dry.
Yeah.
So you would put like layers on it, and then you sometimes you paint wet on wet,
Mhm.
but sometimes it doesn't work that way. So for me, I wanted to paint wet on wet for as long as I can, and then I would wait for it to dry to put on another layer. Yeah.
And I ask you that because a singer can perform on stage and let out an emotion and it's immediate, right? Like got that immediate, they can push it out. Or a songwriter can sit down and, write lyrics and then really express how they feel in that particular time. So it's interesting to hear a painter that would work on something for 3 days, but then that would mean that there's a lot of emotions that are brewing for those 3 days to pump out sort of this image in your head and let it ride out like a therapy session, right?
Yeah, so I feel like it's not as immediate,
Yeah.
but the thought process and the way the I think painting the most beautiful thing about painting for me it's that the process of painting it. It's like
It's like
as you were doing it, you feel like a certain. Sometimes you have to take a step back and look at your painting from afar, and then it will tell you what it needs.
wow.
And that's what my professor told me. And I didn't really get it at the time because I like to paint up close. Like I would like get into it and
Yeah.
go over details a lot. And then I actually listened to that bit of advice, and it really helps. Like to sometimes just take a step back, and then you can just see what is missing and like what it needs in those areas that you want to work on. And it's like it's a process that I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
Um this sounds like it's going to one day, if you ever consider jumping into film directing or, part of that kind of like that part of the world, that would help you immensely with, that putting together and compositing sort of like images and having this visual ability to kind of, I mean, it goes hand in hand, right?
I think it would help a lot. And I've never really had problems with compositioning stuff because I learned this basic rules when I was learning how to draw, and then I keep on applying it to everything, and then you get better as you do it a lot. And but when it comes to directing, I think it's too challenging for me at this moment. Like I've thought about it. Like I always thought that I have yet to make my own short film, and that's something that I wanted. That would be like the next big step for me to produce. Um, Not necessarily direct, but maybe write and produce a
what
short.
what about it, what part of it scares you?
Everything. Because I've seen like I've worked alongside like one of the, like Ham is like um I respect him a lot as a director, because his determination and his hard work and his vision. Because the first time I was working with him, I didn't truly understand the way he visualized his scenes in a film, and then you do it on set, and then a couple months later you see it on his screen, his editing screen, and it's
Yeah.
like totally different. Like you imagine the scene going this way and you think it's like the right way, but then he kind of amazes me with how he changes everything, and it's still that same scene, but it's so much more. It has so much more dynamic in it, and like um So I think I like to uh I would like to like be around and like look at different things and like learn more before he actually asked me to direct something once, direct a music video when I was only like 23, and he asked me if I wanted to direct this music video. It didn't happen in the end, but he actually asked me if I wanted to do it, and I was like terrified because I thought it was like a great opportunity for me, but at the same time, I didn't know where to start. I basically have no clue because everything that I learned from filmmaking, it's just by doing, and sometimes I think it's not enough. Um, like because I didn't have that foundation that
Yeah.
I.
I God, I have so many thoughts on this because I struggled with that for 20 years of my life. Stop and start, start and stop. Writing with the guys, with Anderson and with Bao, and it's a struggle for me too. That's why I asked you, like, what scares you the most about it? Um, I identify with that very much. I still can't get it off the ground. It's still I have a shit ton of stories that I wrote and treatments that I wrote, and I'm around all the guys all the time, and I've always wanted to write and direct myself, but found myself more on the sort of the back side of distribution, and I've produced one film, but I always want to write and direct, but it's scary. It's a daunting task, and when you think about it, it should be, because it's like you're putting yourself really directly on permanent shit, and that's what scares the fuck out of me. God, like, and then it's like this. It's like tattoos, right? Like what you get at 17 or 30 is sort of like an imprint of who you are at the time with tattoos. You know, I had
Right.
tattoos put on me at 17 that I look back and I'm like, oh my God, this is so silly. It's really silly. And so that I'm stuck with that kind of imagery of like me putting something on film and writing my thoughts out. Like I have struggles with a career or with a family member or whatever. And, that's permeating in my mind for that year. So I write the story about it, not directly my story, but I'll put characters that symbolizes the struggle. And then I read back like 3 years later and I'm like, oh my God, this is so fucking stupid. So silly. But then what if people are connecting with that Kenneth Nguyen 3 years ago story,
I
So
think they do. I think they would, and I kind of see what you are saying because a lot of the times, I make videos, talk about my daily life and the things that were like problems with me, right, at the time. And now, even now, like when I look back, I thought that I'm silly, but there are a lot of things that after you've done it for a while, you just forgot about it, and then you get to see it again. It's like it's quite refreshing sometimes because you get to see like yourself in a different perspective that
right.
you kind of like grown, but then there are also things that you could only do it then, but you can't do it now. So that's for me. For like when I don't watch my old YouTube videos, but then I think last month I was watching all of it
Oh
at the
shit.
same time. Like I rewatched like everything just to see like okay, if I can like get any ideas, and I did because like I actually surprisingly I thought I was kind of dumb and like kind of idiotic, but then in a way, something that I can't have now, something that I don't have now, like certain things. It's kind of hard to explain, but you know what I mean, right?
I
Like
do. I do. It's an
yeah,
amazing observation though, and we're not the same person we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I mean, completely different. 3 years ago, I was working on a story with another writer, and I'm like, I was going through a tough time with figuring out career, and I'm always having that career question, right? And now I look back and I'm like, oh, I'm a totally different person. I've settled into a different pattern here, especially having kids. I don't think the same way. But, that story does exist and it might connect with some other people. But yeah,
Right.
go through that quite often. What do you think that in the next year, this new year, is going to sort of like, what are you going to focus on?
Um, well, as I said before, my goal for this new year is I'm starting this new YouTube series. Um, I'm not gonna try to like outdo myself by saying it's gonna be like 5 to 6 episodes. I think I'm gonna um, have like a mini series of. So what it's about? It's I'm doing it about animals, and basically, uh, it's like I pick an animal
Hmm.
that I felt, we observe them in their natural habitat, right? Because I actually love animals ever since I was a kid. I watch
Hmm.
a lot of Animal Planet, Discovery, and all that stuff. And so I'm gonna give them a lot of info about the animal, but then also like the things that they do in their life in relation to humans.
Wow.
What and so like okay, like a chimpanzee, like in mating season, like he would like do this dance, and
Yeah.
like, do I do that kind of dance? That kind of stuff. And afterwards, have some jokes, relation to me, like how do I relate to that animal, basically, and then I paint it.
Wow. Wow. That is.
And so that bear that I showed you, it's one of the episodes that I'm working on.
How do you pick an animal? What makes you drawn to an animal?
Um,
What connects you to the animal?
so it depends on the animals that I chose, and on the video I would explain on each and one of them. I would explain why I picked that one, and the stories or the things that happened to me in my life. Why did I pick that? And I think when I'm done with it, I'm actually like done with one video already. I'm working on the second one, and whenever the first video comes out, I think I'm gonna send you the link so you can see. You can understand Vietnamese perfectly, right?
Yeah,
So
perfectly. Yeah.
should be.
I can't wait. I'm thrilled.
I don't really I don't know how they're gonna react to it. Like how the audience are gonna um, take it. I just knew that it's something quite original.
Yeah, well, you know what
Uh,
what's interesting about that statement you just made about I don't know how my audience is going to take it. This is my guess. This is my thought on that. So you had a group of people that followed you throughout the years, right? Those people are now at a different place in their life. They're now a lot more mature.
right.
They're they're people who really vibe with you and your silliness or your thought process or whatever it is that they vibe with you. And then now they're entering a new phase of their life in whether they're working, at work and they have family or whatever. And I think for them to see this sort of new development of your art and the new maturity and the new way of your thinking, I think it's going to really connect with people that you've had a base with, but then it'll open up to older guys like me because that's like a very original way of thinking too, like this idea of connecting with animals. And I think it is very this day and age is very important that we have that connection with nature and realize that we're not the only fucking thing on the planet that matters.
Yeah. Well, I've been. This has a lot to do with myself. Like I really had to dug deep like into myself because I've always wanted to come back on YouTube, and really do something that I think it's like it has it can be funny, but it has to have heart, and I have to put some thought into it. And so it took me a long time to come up with this idea. And even when I had the idea, like to execute it was quite a challenge. But then when the first video was finished, like I was quite happy with how it turned out overall. Like I know in my heart that I've made something that I'm actually I really enjoyed making it, and I know that I put a lot of thought into it. But the reaction, I'm not too sure. But I've never really done anything based on their reactions
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I know that they appreciate like the videos that like my audience. A lot of them have kind of scattered around a lot because I stopped making videos for many years, and the beauty of it is like I felt like this is the first time in many years that when I'm making these videos, it felt like when I was starting.
Right.
You know, it felt just the same as when I started making videos. So I had that joy again, you know, because there were times when I didn't feel like making anything because I had that pressure of like, oh, you know, I got to do, you know, put out video constantly for views, and I got to do this, I got to do, I had to add commercials in, and like I had this deadline, I had to do all that, and there were a lot of times when I was putting out videos that I knew wasn't my style and like wasn't something that I would be showing to my friends,
Right.
you know. There were a couple, you know. I didn't put out that many videos in the past couple of years, but for these videos, I think I really enjoyed making it, and like I'm kind of excited for to see the reaction. I'm not sure if it's gonna be in my favor or not, but I would be happy to put them out.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing about art, right? I mean, in any field, I mean, we have to make you know, that like the integrity of an artist is what we choose to do. And sometimes it we just got to like put aside what other people might think. I just got started with this whole podcasting thing and bringing people on the show, and it ranges from old school film icons to business people to everything. And there's people that come on that nobody knows about that I'm just interested in. And I'm making it just like you. Because I care about these stories, and I don't care what the world thinks of these people. It's just I care. I want to know more about, and I think it's just almost like a process of self discovery, right? We go through this sort of exercise, and you know, I have a big thing about religion because I was raised under a very strict family of religion, Catholic, and
Wait,
I'm
are you a Catholic?
yeah, I was raised a Catholic. I don't practice it any longer.
You know that I went to a Catholic school in high school
All right, we can talk about this here in Vietnam or in the States.
in the States. I was in Catholic school for
Oh,
three
I'm
years.
sorry. I was thinking of college. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So why a Catholic high school?
I had no clue.
Who sent
Like
you?
it was all set up, and I just came, and I
Who,
didn't know what it was gonna be like, you know.
do you know
But
who paid
how do you you were saying something about you being raised in a strict Catholic
strict, super strict. Yeah, my parents went to church. My dad went twice a day. My mom went once a day in the morning with him. I was really strict. I mean, yeah, they didn't talk about get good grades or work hard. They weren't like that. They were like, no, be a priest. become a Catholic priest.
That's that's really strange
Hardcore, man.
for
Yeah.
Asian parents to say like, "Oh, not get good grades, but like be a priest." To
To
me,
me, it had its benefits. I look back now, it's strange at the time, but we didn't come home and do homework. We came home and like read the Bible in Vietnamese. So we were able to kind of like learn the language that way. And a lot of the words that were broken down by my dad were, going from, he had a really wide English vocabulary. And so it helped us with the duality of, that kind of culture at home. But we didn't have this ambition, my brother and I, to become anything like a doctor or lawyer. It's like, you guys are going to become priests. And so that was our thinking for a long time. And so it was a good thing in the way that it's about integrity and morality, right? So that was like really baked into to my brother and I, the way we think. But it was very uncomfortable at the time, and for better or for worse, it sometimes we go one way and the other way with morality and ethics and stuff like that now. But what high school, like, do you know who ran the high school? Was it the Jesuits, the Franciscans?
St. Joseph Central Catholic High School was
Okay.
the name of the school, and
Yeah.
I didn't understand much. I just went with it, and
Yeah.
I took this theology class, and we go to church uh, every other week, Um, but I wasn't a Catholic. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
converted. Even in my family, we're not like Buddhists, but we practice this religion when you pray to your ancestor,
Đạo ông bà,
and
right?
yeah, yeah, and I went to church, and we learned a lot about Catholic. And what the funniest thing is, like, when I first came to school and I thought, oh, I'm going to a Catholic school, so that means that the students here are gonna be like, you know like holy, like they're not gonna cuss or anything, like. So I didn't I was like really afraid to cuss and shit. And then in soccer games, like I started hearing people say fuck and like shit, and like they were like cussing out and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, like this is what they do. And and then because I was like 15, I didn't know anything, so I was like, I was a little afraid, to say certain things
Yeah.
because I thought I was in like this Catholic school. But overall, I think it it kind of has an effect on me as well because I
Mhm.
didn't think about it. I don't think of it often, but sometimes I do believe that there's God. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like an atheist. I think I would be called agnostic, or
Correct.
that they call me.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's just like an interesting thing that a lot of people were asking me, like, oh, like, are you a Catholic and stuff? And when I say that I went to a Catholic high school.
I went to high school my entire life.
And
From
did you guys have to wear uniforms and stuff?
from what do you
Yeah.
Mao Yao to graduating as a high school senior.
And
Entire
was it like a private school?
Yeah, yeah. There were multiple private schools I went to. In elementary school, um, it was a Catholic school. Then high school, I went to two different high schools, both Catholic schools. One was a boarding school for 2 years. Yeah, and you know, what I want to comment on is this. It's like that thing about you were saying on the soccer field, you were cursing. The thing about Catholics is this: we're so into the rigidity of rituals and rules and shit, and we're like, okay, this is right, this is wrong, right? The more you
Right.
know about right and wrong and the rules, and I'm imagining it's like in painting, probably the same way. The more you know about rules and shit, the more you're gonna go break them,
Yeah.
right? And I think Catholics have this weird perverse sense of like right and wrong because okay, we know that that's the right and wrong. There's the line right there, but then if we go to confession, we can get rid of it, And then so there's this like weird, like, okay, I can do bad, but I'm gonna just go confess to God, and it's just
Right.
a strange way
But
of
then it's like pretty like it's a really cool way to like believe in a way, like it's like I went to confession once, only once, because like I always thought of myself as like an outsider. So
yeah,
like even when the priest was giving these
communion.
yeah, the communion bread,
Yeah.
I never tasted it, although I really wanted to. Like I was just like sitting down there like watching my friends go on and like eat it, and like I'll always wonder like what it tastes like.
Did you do
And
it?
I didn't do it because
Oh
like
man.
they didn't tell me to do it, and I was afraid to do it.
Yeah.
If they didn't tell me, then I'm not gonna just come in and do it. And but there are a lot of things that there were like some priest from Africa, and whenever he come up to lecture, I just couldn't understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
'Cause he was saying it in like he has an accent, and then the mic, and then I was far away. Most of the time, I'm usually like I don't know if I should say this, but like even in church, like I just get like really sleepy.
Creepy, yeah.
I would stay like this sometimes because I'm falling asleep.
I think most children go through that. Most kids go through that. But I will say
I
this.
know I wasn't the only one
Yeah.
too. 'Cause, like,
They're
I
all
felt bad, but I couldn't do like I didn't know any better, and I couldn't help it because like instead of going to class, we go in there. It's like the weather is like it's like the air conditioning's nice, and they're singing, and you're just like, and sometimes I can't understand what they're saying, so it's gonna make me feel
drift
that
off.
way.
Yeah. I have conversations with friends of mine that are younger now, and I remember going through the years of the school, especially when my father dropped me off, and he said, "Look, I know you're not going to enjoy this right now. You're not going to. It's not going to make sense to you right now. But what you're going through right now is a privilege. You have to understand that the rituals that you're seeing, because it was the church that we were at, that boarding school. The service was all in Latin, and it was old school Gregorian chanting, and it was things that you probably see in the movies. The priests wore the robes with the hoods, and it was all white. And I remember it was in the '80s, the late '80s, and we would go through it. And the ritual side of it all, it was very beautiful, actually, those 2 years of going through it. But now that I get older, I really reflect back on what you're saying about you drift off, you're bored, you're sleepy. And I think that's okay. We're meant to kind of like go through that young period like that. And then as you get older, you go back to thinking about why certain rituals, why certain rules about painting, why certain rules about filmmaking, why these
Yes.
things are there. And it begins to sort of make sense in a very different context.
Right. And I find myself actually looking up things like much later on in the road, like looking back at it and wanting to know more. Because at the time, you only learn things in theology class, and you have to like memorize it for tests. But then now that nobody forcing me to do it, I actually find myself like looking back and like searching for some of the stuff that I didn't understand back then, like now. So I think I don't know yet. Like I'm maybe I don't know. Maybe in my 30s, I'll find out something um, that is really meaningful to me because I already kind of sense it now. That I go back and like look up on Google like what certain things were and like certain quotes in the Bible. Actually, my art teacher was the one that he was a really cool guy, and like I was like one of his favorite students back in school.
Yeah.
And his graduation gift for me was he bought me a Bible in Vietnamese,
Oh shit.
and then he gave it to me along with
Along with
like I
like,
think a gift card and like $100 something. Like he gave me a
wow.
couple gifts, and I actually read through it, but then the translation wasn't that good, you know, like the accent mark were all like fucked up. They weren't in the right place, you know. But like I looked through it and I left that book. I left the Bible in Hanoi, but like even after this conversation, I know for a fact that I'm gonna go like maybe tonight or maybe if not tonight, then in a couple days I'll look back at certain things because it's not often that I get to talk about this kind of thing with anybody really. Because like even in my group of friends right now, um, we don't really talk about religion that
Right.
often.
Yeah. It's a big part of us when we get older too. Um, I'm open to it now. I'm open to all of it. I'm open to blending religions. I'm open to all sorts of things. You know what I want to make a quick left turn here. I'd like to do, a few weeks or a few months from now, this same thing in Vietnamese.
Okay, that'd
You know what it's like?
be cool.
Yeah. And I talked to another guest the other day about this because he speaks both the languages. I don't speak Vietnamese pronunciation well, but obviously there's thoughts that I have in Vietnamese that play out differently with the speaker. I think it is. It's like we're both okay. You're on the piano. I'm on the guitar right now, and then once we switch over, you're probably going to be on like the violin, and I'm going to probably get on the drums, and it's a different. We're probably playing the same song, but it's going to sound way different, and the emotions are come out different, and I want to play with that if you're
It's
open.
gonna be a lot different. Like even if I switch to Vietnamese, you feel like I'm a completely
A
different
different person. Yeah,
person.
man, I want to
Because
try.
I think that's the thing about language. Because
Yeah,
like it introduced you to a different thought process, and that's what I learned. Because the reason why also wanted to do this, it's like I never really get a chance to do things like this, you know. And I've been back for 8 years, and during those 8 years, like I don't get that many time practicing. You know, it get rusty
yeah,
sometimes. You
yeah.
see me like messing up and stuttering sometimes, like
I,
even
I yeah, I
in the
don't
past hour. Yeah,
yeah, I
but
don't
sometimes like I feel like I have difficulties like expressing myself. Like the reaction time is slower
yeah.
than it used to be. You know,
But it's good. I mean, that reaction time gives you time to formulate thoughts, and it doesn't show to me at all. I think it just feels like you're a really thoughtful person,
yeah,
which you
because
are.
I have to like construct it in a way so that I would be able to say it. But then in Vietnamese, I feel like it's much more natural. I guess like I would be able to just like say whatever it's like right away. You know,
Yeah.
like it takes less time to think about that kind of stuff.
I have an advantage when I'm doing this in Vietnamese. This is my advantage. I don't have to say much. You're going to be the one speaking. I'll be speaking very little. I have these thoughts, and because you're speaking, I'm going to have enough time to formulate my thoughts in Vietnamese. So
Right.
it's a beautiful thing that I really enjoy. And having an English format that went first between you and me, and then if anybody has the sort of the curiosity to see what it sounds like, uh, but we're not going to script it. We don't, we haven't scripted anything. There was no questions that I had to look up between you and me right now. The conversation
Right.
flows really well, but I wonder where our conversation is going to go when we speak Vietnamese.
It's gonna be a lot easier for me. I think a lot easier, but not in like I'm not saying like this was like tough, but
Yeah,
it's like totally different. I think it's gonna be a lot different.
I'm
I'm still gonna be the same guy with the same experiences, but the way I express it is probably
yeah.
still a lot different. Because I think Ham told me that like he's like impressed, like he's really impressed with my English, but he say that I sound like a kid. Do I kind of sound like a kid when
No,
I speak English? No.
no, because we went into some deep waters with the art stuff and breaking things down. It was very
No,
complex.
but just the sound, like the pronunciation.
I don't get that at
Oh,
all. Yeah, I feel like
okay.
you're
Or
thinking.
maybe because like my voice has been it's much deeper now than it used to be.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah. Because I mean, when did you do suit job? That was like what, 6 years ago or 5 years ago? How long was ago was that?
Yeah, I was like 20 21,
Oh
22.
shit! Wow, man, that
So
was
I'm 27 now. So that's like 6 years ago.
yeah, that was a fun role watching you. Yeah, would man, it's crazy because I remember when he was telling me about when he was shooting that, he's like, "Yeah, that kid speaks fluent English," and I was like, "Didn't make sense." It just didn't make sense. At that time when I was looking at you on screen, it's like this is a Vietnamese kid who's from the north, who is from the north, and he is a born and raised in Viet. And then he's like, "No, the kid speaks perfect English." And then recently, I talk to him once a week on these calls, and he was saying, "Don't forget to ask Tan about the art." And I was like, "What?" I was like, I was like that, So this is why I appreciate these long form podcasts because now we can really get down with getting into who people are, And I think Vietnam's not there yet. It'll take another 2 to 3 years for it took 10 years for the US to get into long form podcasting. And in the beginning, people were like, that's crazy. Nobody's going to sit for like 3 to 4 hours to watch, a long form podcast. But now it's totally different. You have your TikTok, 30 seconds, you have your Instagram stuff, you have your things that you can consume quickly. But then there are things that for example, there's an episode of a Navy SEAL called Jocko Willink and his subordinate, Johnny Kim. I don't know if you know the story, but
I don't know about the story.
Johnny Kim is a SEAL team. Originally was a SEAL team, worked under Jocko in his unit. They fought in Iraq and everything, right? Then he goes
Oh,
on to get into Harvard Medical School, becomes a medical doctor, right? And Jocko is his commanding officer. He writes a letter of recommendation for Johnny. And then after that, you go, okay, cool. He goes back again and he becomes a NASA astronaut. So fucking Johnny Kim is a SEAL team, Harvard medical doctor, and he becomes an asset. And it's the episode Jocko Willink. I think it's 221 is the number of the episode. You can look on YouTube or Spotify. That guy and so Jocko and Johnny Kim go for 4 hours or whatever, right? And you look at it and you're like, fuck that. That sounds boring. Dude, when you get into that shit, you're like, oh my God, I need 6 more fucking hours of this show. I want 10 hours of Jocko and Johnny talking because they break down so many different angles of the SEAL team world, the Harvard journey, and how he is now an astronaut. And it is just mind blowing. And Joe Rogan did another one with another artist, a painter called David Cho. That went on for like 4.5, 5 hours. And one of my favorite episodes. I needed another 20 hours with those two guys, So eventually, I think no, I'm pretty sure Vietnam is going to
there are a lot of podcasts right now that is already on the way. I've seen a couple, and for me, like I'm new to like knowing about podcasts and stuff. But if there's like someone I know, like someone I follow, and I really want to know things, I would sit for a couple hours just to watch him or him or her talk about like things. You know, there was this YouTuber that I really liked back in the day, and he just completely disappeared. Kev Jumba,
Yeah. Hmm.
and he was gone for a couple of years, and then he went back and did a podcast, and like I was like onto that shit like right away.
No
I
shit.
was just sitting there and watch it for I think it was like an hour and a half or something.
I think you would kill it as
And
a host, man. You should do it. You should do it.
a lot of people actually messaged me on YouTube and saying I should do my own podcast.
You should do it. Yeah.
But actually, I have no clue. Like, I don't know how to start, and how do you start? Like you
Yeah,
decided to
yeah.
do it.
So I've been wanting to do it since 2015. I'm just horrified of technology. I come from a you know, it's not an age thing. It's just a personality thing. I'm not
Right.
good at it. So this pandemic hit, and everybody was like talking about how easy Zoom is. I was like, shit. And then I started to learn about it, and then I got it. And I've been working in the entertainment sector for a long time, and I built a lot of contacts. And then I also have a life outside of entertainment. I work in the food space in LA. I've been in that world, the food world, the street food world for 10 years. So my wife and I are sort of like really heavy into that food scene where it's street food. And then I have a military background. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years, from 17 to 21. And so I have a big host of a big group of guys that I stay in contact with. I've stayed in contact with every industry that I've ever been in. I grew up in the interior design world. My mom and dad made window coverings and so I was like, oh my god, I have all these experiences that I can just put together. And I always wanted to do a show because I just love talking to people. So all I did was like started telling Anderson and Bao and Ham and all these guys like, hey, I'm gonna step off and do this. They were like all like support of that. So, but now, Tan, this is my thing with you and everybody I talk to. Start right away, because the more guys like us that do it, we create like a bigger web of voices that we can move information around very quickly within with our art. Because next time you get this show off the ground, and I'm nothing. I have like no followers. I'm just starting out, but I have faith that because I tell my friends this all the time. I'm doing this for selfish reasons. If nobody was to watch any of these shows, I'd be fine with it. I'm terrified when people that care, like guests that care about my view count, when they come on the show and they're like, he's not a big show. I don't want to go on. That's the only thing that makes me sort of worry about the view count. But other than that, I'm not doing this for the view count. I
Right.
don't think about that. I think about, can I do 1,000 of these episodes, and then when I pass away one day, my children can learn a bit about the Vietnamese, right? Their
And
children.
about you too.
Thank you. I hope that I've spent enough time and being present with them that they can learn about me. But for the future generations of people that want to learn about the Vietnamese, here is a big library of human beings that are called Vietnamese people. In one way or another, this is the story about Vietnamese people. And it could be white people who've studied about the Vietnamese people, or white people who've done business with Vietnamese and have an angle. But anything to do with the Vietnamese is sort of like my direction. And so what I'm saying to you is, if you don't know, it doesn't matter. Just start putting guests on, people that you like, that people that you're interested in, and just start to turn the record button on and just go like this, one on one. And then when COVID's lifted, I don't know what your studio situation, but have like a 3 camera setup, and you can have guests inside, and all you got to do, man, is just riff. And if it's just like two comedians, like you and another funny guy, just go in there and talk about dumb shit. It doesn't matter. Like, we're just
Right.
talking about podcasting right now on a podcast. It doesn't matter,
Right.
because people are going to get to know my history of like podcasting, and you're like, you haven't done it yet, and this is the start of something. And if we have like 50 people like me and you, and then we're like rotating on each other's shows, when you have a new thing or I have a new thing, and it just becomes like this massive influx of voice that we need to have spread out, because right now there's not, for better for it's we don't have like a massive like group of podcasters. So I want to have that world where I can jump on show to show. You can jump on show to, you can call me up and like, hey Ken, you should go on that guy's show, because there's this interesting thing that's happening. So yeah, just start. I would just start calling up your friends and just
Right.
having, and even if they're nobody, even if they're people that don't have a big view count, you can people can start to learn about you more, because that friend that you've had for like 9 years starts asking questions that you're like, oh shit, he's going to a part of my life that I've never talked about.
Right. No, I think podcasts are really amazing, actually.
Amazing.
Like for me to, you know, you mentioned this before, like, you know, when you see, because I'm a guy from YouTube, so like I'm used to making content for like fast, like
Yeah.
short attention span, and like seeing like the length, it would put off a lot of people, including myself, from the beginning. But then when I learned about what it is and like sit through a bunch of podcasts, like watching all those people, I started with like watching actors,
Mm,
because like I'm really always curious about like what they, the stories they have, and like the behind the scenes and all that
right.
stuff. So that's how I started out watching a few, and I've seen an episode of you and the, what's his name, Jesse,
Yeah, Jesse
he's
Tran.
the captain of so for me it was interesting to see that there are Vietnamese people that are like that, you know, like they are in the Marines, and like they're obviously like, it's like the, seems like the tough, like tough Vietnamese guy, you know. That I've never seen
Wow.
a
Wow.
lot of people like that, and like to hear what they talk about. I've seen bits of your
Your
talk with
talk
Ashton.
with Anderson,
I've
is
seen
it?
bits of it. Um, Only
Sorry,
the very first part.
of Anderson?
Some of the first, yeah, of Anderson. I think I've seen Jesse, and I think before that, like a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at Chef.
Yeah, Chef Winbui.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one was like so fascinating. Like I had no idea what was going to go on with that one, and it turned out to be at the time, God, one of my loveliest experiences with another human being because I didn't know him very well. We just met a few weeks before that. We spent Christmas together with a group of people for a few days, and when we started that interview, I thought that I had known a little bit about him, and then I said hello, and it took him a long time in my head. It took like an infinity to say, "Hey Ken, how are you?" to reply back. And then at first I'm like, maybe he has audio problems with the earphones, right? So it threw me off. Like I'm not used to that. Somebody was gonna. So I thought, all right, there was a technical problem, and then I go, "How are you?" or something like that. It took him like double the amount of time, if you see in the beginning of that, to respond.
right,
And I was like, "Fuck, man, what did I get myself into?" I was so
right,
worried about it because I'm used to people like, well, what, you know, and then
right,
it forced me, just like your English, what you were talking about, it forced me to slow down. And because we slowed it down, I began to realize I have not been listening to people up to that point in my life and on the previous show's podcast. I began to realize, like, okay, I have to take my time and listen and process the information that's being put out there. And I didn't do that before. And his segment allowed me to do that. And it became this beautiful thing for me for that whole episode. I really stopped and realized, oh my God, I'm dealing with a different type of human being here. Somebody who's going to really process and God, we get down to some funny things like the creation of banh mi in Vietnam. I don't know if you got that far into it, but and we talk about like making pho and putting in a spice bag in the beginning or the end of the you know there's all of the you know I'm in the cooking world too, so we break down all these food ideas and we get granular down to the molecular kind of like process of making food. And I really love this, and I think Tan, you're gonna really love this as well. You're gonna really love, and you speak both languages, so you can do whatever you want.
right.
You know, you can do it in English and you can do it in Vietnamese and post it
That's
all over
true.
the
But
page. Yeah,
um, yeah, well, I will definitely think about, because I've always thought, not always, but like I've had that thought before, you know, because what advantages that I have, if I were to interview people in Vietnam, is that I'm actually friends with a lot of the um, guys my age that
yeah,
worked into, you know, that worked in the industry, and like there are singer rappers, and they're really different people, and I happen to know a lot of them. So
Yeah,
It's
take it back.
it's pretty cool
Dude,
to
you know
have
what I
that
would
kind of.
fuck, man, you know what I would wanna watch from you? I would wanna watch you and your father talk for fucking 3 hours.
That'd
Dude,
be
that would
cool.
fucking be amazing, right?
Right.
I would love to hear you and your father go.
That's a crazy idea, actually. I haven't thought of that.
Yeah,
I thought about making videos with him, but I've never thought about doing a podcast with him.
dude,
That would
just
be
jot out a few questions, that and then you go, "Hey, dad, can you turn on your camera?" And then set them up with Zoom, and then you just go, man. It's very easy, and
I'm actually flying back in 2 days, so I will be in Hanoi for that.
God,
But I'm actually a little, huh?
I would love to
What
watch that one. You could even do a whole series, like, you could do, like, 8 of them with him, his friends, just go down the list of all the amazing artists. Dude, Hui, I mean, Tan, I just called you Hui.
it's okay. Yeah.
There is nobody, I mean, to my knowledge, that does a whole series of artists in the Vietnamese world. So imagine if you
Right.
just started right there because you have an art background, your father, and you have all of their connections that you can literally sit for fucking 20 episodes and go down the list of your dad's contacts or your contacts in the art world. Dude, I would tune into that shit like obviously that's like,
And today would be the day that marks the start of that show if it ever
yeah,
happened.
that would be amazing. You could just do a series on those guys. You could do a series on women, business people, or dude, there's so many outlets that you can push because you have the ability to do it. You have the sensibility to sit here and
I'm
ask.
actually, I think I'm quite the same as you because you were describing that you say like it's not a age thing, it's like personality thing when it
Yeah,
comes to tech and stuff. I'm actually the same way. And then I have to learn a lot of the things on YouTube, even like the basic of like lighting setup and
yeah,
stuff. I have to learn everything by myself because I never had that foundation. But I mean, it should be easy, like it shouldn't be hard, but it's just like the thought of starting.
yeah.
Sometimes it's
Dude,
not,
once you get started, you can't
especially when you
stop.
start something new,
Yeah, yeah.
especially something new.
But this
But
requires no like. This requires no. It requires no. After you get over the Zoom aspect and the lighting, what it requires not a whole lot of pre-production, not a whole lot of prep, because if you can connect with another human being and draw out their story just by sitting in, look, man, I don't know you, you don't know me, we're just here having a conversation. And the beauty of this is because I don't know you, now I'm going to fucking find a way to get to know you in this
right.
episode, right? So whatever is like popping them, and I have like maybe 1,000 more questions that you don't even see, but it's like it's brewing in my head constantly as I'm talking to you. And I'm like, I haven't even gotten to, I wrote a few questions. I haven't even got to 80% of those questions today.
Damn.
You know? So that's the beauty of this. It's like, and I got to know you, and I'm sure the world of the future people who are watching this is going to get to know you in a totally different way. They're like, what? He's an actor too? What? He does that other YouTube, like, what? He does art? Like, we got to cover a lot of ground. And I'm excited. And I'm excited to be a part of your world for the next few years, and hopefully I can come on your show one day. I would love to, and have the tables
If
reversed.
I were to have a podcast show, then you would definitely be a guest.
Well, let's knock out this Vietnamese one, soon, and then I would love to see you get started with the one with your dad, and that's another channel that you throw up on your original YouTube page, and you just go down the list and just start doing all the guests. And I would love to hear more about rappers in Vietnam and the growth of that sector in Vietnam. And I'd like to interview rappers because that's something that I grew up in LA very close to. And but see, here's the beauty: the questions that I'm gonna ask of the same rapper like is totally different from what you're gonna ask, right?
Right.
You're And that's why we need more people to do podcasts in our, because I have a different viewpoint than you do, and I would be very interested to hear how an interview that you do with a rapper and an interview that I do, how our different points of view will collide because, or even be very different because the rapper is going to have to answer certain questions from an American, a Vietnamese American versus somebody who is Vietnamese, but also has an American background. So your questions can penetrate in a very different way than my questions. So this is what is needed in the world today with the idea of being Vietnamese and having representation out there. I'm so excited to talk about this shit, man. It's like brand new, you know. I'm so enthusiastic when I think about this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty inspiring. Like I never actually thought of starting, but like after today,
Yeah, you
it
got to
could
do
be it could be something, man. It could be
it.
something.
Yeah, it's huge. And you'll realize that the amount of time for pre-production doing this is far, far, far less than your typical YouTube production that is shorter. It's like
Right.
shorter, but it takes you more time to edit and to build the music. And this is nothing. You flip a switch, you go deep into conversation with another human being and you connect.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for the future of all of this this ecosystem of podcasting from Vietnamese voices, you know. Yeah. Um let's set up something in a few weeks and you know, get down to the to the side. I want to end on this question. Tet is coming up for you, right? You're going back to Hanoi. What do you do for Tet?
Um Usually we just eat a lot. And I would come home and I like to spend time with my family when it comes to that. Usually, when I was younger, I can't wait to go out and like hang out with friends and do countdowns and all that stuff. But now I just like to be at home and I like to spend that moment with them when it's like Giao Thừa, right? Like you
Yeah.
passing of the year. I like to be around my parents and we usually just stayed home. Sometimes we would watch the fireworks together from the rooftop, like the top floor. We can see from my house. You can see actually 3 points of the fireworks. I mean, I don't like fireworks that much anymore, but it's still like something that I really enjoy doing with my parents. And we usually just eat, and then we usually have chicken because it's like they have to like pray and stuff, and all the food is there, and
Can I
with
ask you?
toast,
Can I
and
ask you
then
about?
come,
I'm sorry. Can I ask you
yeah,
about a word that you just said, "Giao Thừa," right?
yeah.
I had never even thought about that until you just brought up. Like in Western culture, we don't have that idea of Giao Thừa. Like, can you explain that in English to me?
Um, so it's like a moment of uh, the very moment when it changes from this year to the other year to the next year. So it's like 12 o'clock. That moment, it's called the. It's like the Zao tour, right? So it's like to it Zao, like
Zao is to hand off, and then to I
yeah.
don't know is extra, or what does to mean in this context?
I actually have no I actually have no idea. It's just that the word that I've known
Yeah,
since I
our
was
whole
a
life.
kid,
I've
and
heard. Yeah, they got them Zao
so
Thừa.
that's how I know that's what it means to me.
God,
And whenever someone says that, then it means that it either means that day, you know, which is the 12th, I think, the 12th of February this year. Um, could mean that day, or it could mean that moment, like that very moment when the fireworks starts and
yeah,
the clock is like, um,
it switches over to the next.
yeah, yeah.
But I wonder what the word to means in this. You know, I'm like dying to know.
I actually have no clue, but it doesn't mean as like supler or like
Surpluses.
more than enough. It doesn't mean that. It means something else, but
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain.
And then you spend what, like a week at home?
um, yeah, usually when I was a kid, I was more excited about the lycée, right? Like because
Yeah.
as kids, But now I'm in a position that I have to really see like my cousins, you know, and like I have a nephew now, and yeah, I'll be there for like a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on the situation. Like I don't know if it's gonna be easy to. Hopefully that nothing is because there are like at the time that we're speaking, there are a few COVID cases in Hanoi. So we just have to see what the situation is like. But yeah, I'll be there for about 1 to 2 weeks, and then get back to Saigon again.
Well, awesome, man. I want to thank you for spending this time with me, and it was a delight to get to know you today.
Thanks
And
for having me. I
my,
really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
I'm so happy to see your face say that, and it brings me a lot of joy to do this. And I hope in the upcoming years that we're going to do a lot more together. And even if there's like major events, we can get together on and then just do an episode. We could talk about um, anything, whatever we want.
Right.
Fucking want. We could just get on and catch up and do it this way.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, definitely. Next time with the Vietnamese, either way, like we can set up a date like later, and then we can do another episode. You know, down the way, maybe after that or
sure.
whenever you have the time.
I always have.
I'm down for it. I'm down for it.
All right, I always have the time. I'm always ready to go. I'm always ready to go. So we'll coordinate that. And Happy New Year. And I would chúc mừng in Vietnamese, but I feel very very inadequate to do that. So I'm just going to wish you a joyous and a very prosperous New Year, full of health and full of well-being.
Thank you, man. Wish you a happy new year. I don't know how to wish it in like in English, you know? Like you said it all already. Prosperous, like in Vietnamese we would say like an khang thịnh vượng, or like chúc mừng năm mới an khang thịnh vượng. That's all.
I'll take that. I'll take that from you. That's like authentic and it's beautiful. Beautiful. All right, man. Well, I will talk to you soon, and we'll set up the Vietnamese version very soon.
All right. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Tan.
See you.